Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We're back from Monday. I was going to say Monday night special. It's our Monday day special. We've gone early because it's the Chasing Green Arrows derby this evening. So Dean is otherwise engaged.
Come on, Fulham.
Probably go into it as favourites, do you? I don't know. It's about the bookies probably have it pretty even, I'd have thought.
Probably is pretty even, to be honest. I mean, it's a really tough one because as a Fulham fan, like, there's not many times you've ever got into this fixture with reason for confidence or optimism. But this is one of the times when Fulham can be like, okay, we could and perhaps should beat this Chelsea team, but things don't really turn out like that. And I look at it like clear-minded, and you're like, okay, so what's Fulham's like big upside here? And it's like, well, we're a decent team, but we're just a bit toothless. So if we win, it's going to be 1-0 or 2-1. If we lose to Chelsea, what's the worst case? You're like, well, they're pretty toothless too. Like, the most they're going to score is 3, but they don't do that. So probably 2. So I'm like preparing myself. The worst it could get is like a 2-0 defeat, and that would be really disheartening.
That's what I see. I see a 2-0
That'd be
defeat.
really disheartening. But I'm going to go 1-0 Fulham.
Oh, confident. Well, your home advantage. Monday Night Football. I'm pumped for it. Chelsea
I can't wait to get there.
Brighton. Chelsea beating Brighton was big, though. I wonder if that's the turning point in the old Haribo Cup.
Mate, you can't read too much into that. It wasn't even that good.
Bill's with us, and Damien and Zaid and Juice and Mark, FPL Songs. I am back, yes, off the back of... I missed a week. I've missed you, mate. I've missed chatting FPL. I've missed Chasing Green Arrows. I've missed the Chasers. I've not done any content in over a week because I've not done anything
weird
either. So I did a few like pre-uploaded videos that I recorded ages ago. But yeah, this signs of the fact I've just come back. Probably quite obvious. My voice, you can hear, is croaky.
Your voice definitely croaky. Yeah.
I'm wearing a hat because I'm like, I washed my hair when I got in last night and went to bed, so it's like, so I was like, I can't be asked to do that. But then my hat's wet because I opened my suitcase and all my clothes, every last piece of clothing or material, to the point of my laptop case and my hat smell of damp because the room I was in clearly had damp issues that I think is responsible for my throat. And my wife was like, get that in the wash. I was like, what, you want to wash my hat? She was like, yes, wash everything.
Yes, yeah. In fact, throw yourself in there at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I showered just before I flew out. And she was like, you still need to jump straight in the bath.
Yeah, get straight in the bath for an hour.
Cam's in the chat. Yeah, mate. Cam's back. Good stuff, Cam, with the super chat.
Oh, yeah. Well done, Cam. If Botman is out for a while, I tell you what, that Botman injury could be key, couldn't it? Like, that's a big one. I mean, obviously, Newcastle play PSG in midweek. I was saying just a minute ago, I was doing another show, and I said on there, if Newcastle were full strength against PSG, I actually think Newcastle win.
Yeah,
PSG aren't the full version yet of PSG. They had a poor draw at the weekend. They lost to Nice 2 weeks ago. They beat Dortmund in the last game of the Champions League. It wasn't great. I was like, Newcastle could actually beat them. And you're like, but no Botman, no Gordon, no Joe Linton.
Harvey Barnes is out as well, isn't he?
No Harvey Barnes to rotate with Gordon. Suddenly you're a bit more limited. I still think Newcastle can get a result out of that. But would you see Lascelles as an option, mate, to bring in for him?
Oh, it's an interesting question, Cam, because what do we know so far, right? Botman and Shed don't miss many minutes. So when they do, we're always like, will Dan Burn go centre-back and will Lewis Hall come in at left-back? Eventually, Lewis Hall's going to be the starting left-back at Newcastle, I think. Or does Lascelles come in, who's not played for a long time, and Howe doesn't really fancy him? And Lascelles comes in, does well, keeps a clean sheet. But let's not forget the opposition, right? Like, did we expect a clean sheet against Burnley regardless? Yeah, we did. Now, Botman is out for a month. So definitely the West Ham, Palace, Wolves, and probably the Arsenal game. That's 4 Premier League games without him. I'm not sure I want to be jumping on that Newcastle defence with Lascelles there. Sure, if you've got a Trippier or a Share, you're happy, or a Pope, and you sit. Do I want to increase my numbers with Newcastle defence with Botman out? No, I don't. Not if it's Lascelles, and even if it was Burn coming in at centre-back and Hall at left-back, I'd still... That Newcastle defence is so good, but it's the 4 with Pope that we know so well. I'm not sure about those cogs without Botman, who's the best of them all defensively.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. So we shall see how it turns out. How did your game week go, mate? Because
Oh yeah, good
we
question.
won't talk about the one before that went really well. But I genuinely haven't seen any score. I know that my team did so badly. I only just looked at my score again a second before coming on here. It was just a disaster. What about yours?
Yeah, disaster. I'm below the average. I had a big decision to make last week, and it was: do I go Morris, as you guys discussed, you and Ian on Friday, or do I have a last minute change of mind? Because I had Jackson, right? I needed to replace Jackson. Morris was in all week. And then I decided, no. I'm going to go Darwin, because if I go Morris, I'm saying I have to wildcard in game week 9 or 10 because I'll need him out my team.
Yeah.
If I go Darwin, maybe I can keep a little bit more flexible. So I went from going, what's the better pick this week, which I was always Morris on the double was the better pick, to, oh, let's think about the wild card and overthink it. And I massively did. So I went from 60-40 Morris to 60-40 Darwin on Saturday morning. And it was a huge swing because Morris goes and gets 8 with another fixture to play. Darwin gets 0. And then that means I get a Stupinan -2 off my bench. So at the moment, I'm on a 10-point swing.
Oh my God.
It's a big one. It's a big one,
Oh, that is a big one. Yeah.
And Morris
yeah,
has another fixture.
Yeah, I mean, and it's Burnley, so he probably will get 1 in that game. I was heavy onto Morris and Friday's show. So when he scored, obviously, like my heart sunk a little bit. But I do fancy him to score in this next one, so that would be a bit of a killer. The Estupiñán -2 was really annoying at the weekend, but there was a lot of things that were annoying me at the weekend, especially as my Ollie Watkins decision. As I was so committed, wasn't I? I was so committed to Ollie Watkins. Like, I've got to stick with him because Ollie Watkins is going to start scoring goals again. And he did the week I got rid of him for Alvarez.
Yeah.
And at that weekend, honestly, I was close to throwing my phone. I was so annoyed when he just kept scoring.
He goes on these runs, doesn't he? And when we saw he scored last week, it wasn't a surprise to see him score again this week. I mean, we didn't expect the assists and a hat-trick. But yeah, I mean, the first comment in the chat, Aston Villa Bozzy, one of our regular chasers, 2 words for you, Gianni, Ollie Watkins. It's like, and there's a few mentioning Ollie Watkins, Aston Villa Bozzy in particular. Aston Villa Bozzy and anyone else out there, Dean and I really like Ollie Watkins. Like, there's no, oh, you should have Ollie Watkins, Gianni or Dean. Like, we think he's a brilliant pick and he's been in our teams loads. And Dean, you really backed him when no one else did. I mean,
I was so backing of him. That's what annoys me the most. I stuck with him through, 7 game weeks now. So I stuck with him for 5. And then it's on 6, he starts scoring. But I was like, no, I need to get off this. I need to get on Alvarez because it's more of a sure thing. And Alvarez has returned, but obviously not in the same way. It's a bit frustrating. Why did you do this and why did you do that? Play your own game, says Colm. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I keep getting swayed by here as well. It's like, I read the comments on here. I listen to what people are saying. I listen to anyone that comes on our show because we all know what we're talking about. And we all have different vantage points. We all see more of one team than another. We're different views. And I'm trying not to be as stubborn as I used to be. For example, like the other day, who was on when FPL Salah, I think, was on here. He was saying you need to get Mbeumo in your team. And I was like, I'd never pick Mbeumo. He plays for Brentford. He's like, well, that's not good enough for Eden. And I was like, no, I know, but like, that's how I play the game. And he's like, well, you shouldn't. And I was like, no, you're right. And I came out of that show thinking, I really do have to start considering Mbeumo. Now, I'm not going to pick him all season, probably, but I did come out of that show thinking, do you know what? If I think Mbeumo is going to be a good pick again, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to be less stubborn. But ultimately, let's stick to what we believe in, people, because this is a tough season and anything goes at the moment, and your gut is going to take you places that it might never have done before in this game, actually.
Yeah. That teased me up nicely for my 112 points the week before, mate, that I've not been able to chat about. And it was a case of going, look, my team got 112 points, great, which I loved. Clearly, that was awesome. But it was when I went, everyone else has got 60. That's what I really liked. It's the differences between your rivals, which is where FPL really, really hits big, isn't it? And you only get those differences when your team's slightly different to others. And those that had Ollie Watkins this week are doing exactly the same as what I did the week before. I go, my team is different. It's a combination of all those players. So it doesn't have to be major differences. We're not talking about going and putting 1% own players in. We're talking about players like Ollie Watkins or Foden or Gvardiol came in for me or whoever. yeah, it's an interesting one moving forward. I do think Aston Villa are a team that we really need to take seriously now. The performance against Brighton was brilliant, and they can do that, especially at home. And there's so many good FPL options. Matty Cash is at a price rise already. He's 4.9 million and playing like an out-and-out winger.
Yeah.
Zaniolo's are like 5.5 and getting starts, and I think he'll start clocking some points. Diaby's brilliant but flagged. But again, a great option at like 6.7-ish.
Mate, the openings that Diaby gets, like everyone thing here that was last week was convinced I just don't like Diaby because I kept finding reasons to say I won't pick him. But then I'm watching the game, and this happens all the time. He has unbelievable openings, Diaby, that come up for him. He doesn't always pick the right choice. There was one time, particularly at the weekend, he had a direct route to goal, ended up coming back inside and the opportunity passed. But he gets in those channel spots where he can just zip a ball across. He also has big openings to shoot from. He really does find good spaces. And, I'm going to prove to people soon I don't have an agenda against him because I think he might be in my team at some point.
Yeah, and the team on the other receiving end of that big score, and we'll move on, guys, to some eye test scouting in a minute. And looking at our teams coming up, we're going to obviously look at some tips and chips and take your questions. Was Brighton. Worth noting, Brighton can do this. Like, Brighton can go and blow teams away, but then they can go and lose. Well, they conceded 5 to Everton at the end of last season, didn't they? It was like, and didn't they get a heavy battering again this season? They've had 1 3 or 4-0 defeat. And then obviously 5 against Villa. So they can go and concede big. But in the same game, and you guys know I love XG, Brighton clocked a higher XG than Aston Villa still. Like, it was like 1.7 versus 1.6. It was tight, but it could have gone either way. Estupiñán missed a chance to take Brighton 1-0 up. Like, imagine if that goes in. So don't write Brighton off either. Don't look at that and go, you need to say Brighton. They still clocked 1.5 plus XG at Villa Park, which is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't give up on Brighton after that one. They're going to have a few games like this, aren't they, across the season, especially now they've got a Europe to contend with as well. They are becoming tricky, though, because guessing their team is not an easy matter.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. And he's happy to use all his squad. Like, we saw the kid come in and play centre mid. Yeah, there's loads of options there in the wide forward spots and up front too. Saw Cam asked a question, and Cam, as a regular super chatter, you don't have to super chat and we'll still answer your question, mate. This is proving it. Sterling as your last punt this week. I think he plays number 9 tonight, just because Poch said last week Brozier's not ready to start. He was talking about that ahead of the Carabao. I don't know if a few days makes enough of a difference for him to be playing 60. And obviously with Jackson suspended, I expect it will be Sterling number 9. And if it is, that could be a good thing for your team. Although Sterling himself says his best position is where he's been playing, out wide on the right. And I think it's not necessarily a good thing seeing Sterling.
I don't think Sterling will get much change out of us through the middle.
I don't.
I'm worried about
Rashford there. It's like they're actually better with a bit more space out wide, those sorts of players.
Definitely. And I'm more worried now about Brozier coming on. Like you're saying, that I assumed Brozier would start tonight.
I think he'll get 30. I don't think he can get 60. Yeah.
See,
he
that's
was
what
out
I
for
thought.
so long, wasn't he?
He was. I just thought that just seems such a risk to put Sterling in at 9.
It's far from
risk's
ideal.
the wrong word. It's just not far from ideal. Is probably a better way to tee it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting selection there from Poch. He definitely would want to put Brozier in. I just don't know if it's too soon. I think it was it last Tuesday or Wednesday he was quoted saying Brozier's not ready to start, because many hoped he'd start in the Carabao. Palmer says Colm. No, I think we'll see Palmer number 10 though, and that does help. With Sterling playing 9, there's one more position there. Palmer, by the way, has been Chelsea's best player in the last few weeks.
Oh yeah, he definitely has. Yeah,
Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
He could be a good FPL option at some point. But the fixtures do turn for Chelsea in FPL, and we are selling them. Let's move on and talk a little bit about the weekend just gone in terms of eye test and notebook. It's coming up. We've got our eye test report. Yeah, rest in Pilgrim. Week 10 is the week to go back to Brighton, indeed. They've got a really nice run of fixtures, Brighton, and that's why players like Matoma and Estupiñán I'm just not selling. We'll talk a little bit about wildcard later in the show as well, guys, so stay tuned for that. I want to give you my take on wildcard. But eye test from the weekend just gone. Some big performances. We have bonus beasts on a Monday show, and one of them we're not going to discuss in bonus beasts because we're going to talk about them in the eye test report is Kieran Trippier. Mate, the last 3 weeks, like, he's gone from someone that isn't clocking any attacking returns to getting, he got a hat-trick of assists last week. He got the assist for the first goal this week. Kieran Trippier looks back to his old self. And whilst Botman's injured, and you go, I worry a little bit about clean sheet points for Newcastle. If the attacking returns are coming from your defender that gets clean sheet points too, he always lucks out in bonus. There's not many better FPL options than Trippier at the moment.
There's really not. No, and I mean, obviously, we're heading towards wildcard time for a lot of people, and I mean, he's going to be like his ownership's going to go up even more. He's 42% right now, but like we're getting to 50%. Yeah, I think we'll get to 50% soon, won't we? Because you just can't ignore what he brings you at both ends. And if Newcastle are going to carry on being successful, then Trippier will be flourishing as part of that. So it's one of the things that we've talked about before in my team. I don't have any Newcastle assets at all at the moment. But Trippier and Gordon are kind of the two that I've had on my radar that I'd want. And yeah, at the moment, I don't have a clear route to getting Trippier. I'm about $1 million short if I was to transfer anyone half decent. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I do want him.
38 points in 3 weeks. Like, there's defenders, there's good defenders that will clock 38 points in half a season. He's clocked 38 points in 3 weeks. It's phenomenal. Let's move on from Newcastle defence and Trippier. Usually the eye test report is about bringing players to the fore who have done really well. Rashford and Bruno are still in a ton of teams, and I have no idea why. There are so many good FPL options this season, especially in midfield, competitions for places, yet the United tax, often, which is the case when we're investing in these players, no one's selling Bruno and no one's selling Rashford because they're, one, Man United fans, and two, because they're blinded by the fact that Man United have got good fixtures, which they do. Good fixtures are only good if you're winning the games and scoring goals. Now, they've played in the last 2 games, Burnley and Crystal Palace, and scored a total of 1 goal in 180 minutes of Premier League football against 2 teams where we thought they had a high ceiling. Well, Rashford's still 27% owned. He's in more than 1 in 4 teams. Bruno's in 1 in 5 teams. Loads, I don't know, maybe even FPL Salah until very recently, and Big Man Backer, our 2 other guests on this show recently, have both. What is going on? You can't just put the double up. They're rubbish. I can't see it.
They are terrible. And like, honestly, I like Rashford for me is in that team beyond this week now on reputation, because I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I know they're trying to build something between him and Højlund right now. But like at some point, you've got to be like, okay, we'll take Rashford out. He can go on the bench for this one. Garnacho gets the start, whatever. He just hasn't been good. And when we were doing the show on Friday, Ian was obviously on, and he's a United fan, and he was supporting Rashford, and he was explaining why he's still in his team. And he said, and obviously he's at Old Trafford pretty much every week watching him. And he said, no, when you're on the eye test, like Rashford's still doing it. Like I'm confident I'm keeping him. So I think he said similarly for Bruno, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet he did.
And I'm just like, don't see it. I don't see it. And at this point, it's a lot of money to be throwing away every week with Rashford just flopping.
Yeah, at that price. It means if you've got Rashford and Bruno, you probably don't have Son. Look at Son's returns in the last few weeks. Now, they do have Brentford coming up next week at home. So it's a good fixture on paper. And then they go to Sheffield United. So again, people will be holding these guys, but they will drop in value. And I think blanks will continue. If I'm back in that United attack on eye test in the last couple of weeks, the guy I've been most impressed with for his FPL price, because it's all relative, because I think Bruno's been playing all right, to be fair, is Højlund, because he's 7 million. And again, he's a forward and there's fewer options there. Højlund, I think, is looking quite good at 7.1 million. Do I want to jump on him right now? Probably not. Like, we're going after players like Ollie Watkins, but he'd be on my radar. Yeah, I just don't quite get the blinded love for these guys in midfield. But yeah, one to monitor for owners.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about him here. I think Højlund's looking like a great player, but I don't want to own him. Like, there's no temptation there yet. But he's going to bang at some point this season. I'm convinced of it. But at the moment, like, United is such a mess. You just can't trust the system that they're playing in, or the environment that they're having to live in week by week. Like, it's a bit of a disaster stone. There's even trends over the weekend, Ten Hag out. And I'm like, this is absolutely...
Yeah, they got booed, didn't they?
What is going on here? Like, chaos club.
Yeah. Chaos Club for so long. Although I'm a Chelsea fan, I can't say much. Mark makes a good point, and this is I completely agree, Mark. Like, we're all blinded by our club. Like, Christ, I owned Havertz loads when I should have had Watkins last season. We all remember that, and that's because he played for Chelsea. No other reason.
I didn't pick
But
Mitchell all season.
yeah, exactly. We
that
all
reason.
do it, but we can't see past. There are content creators out there. Some of the biggest ones, Let's Talk FPL, Raptor, Holly, Praz, they're all United fans, right? And a lot of them have either one or two of those guys that we've just mentioned. So look, fair play. We're blinded by our clubs. And when big name accounts do it, thousands will follow.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair point. Fair point indeed. Let's have a look at some of the other highlights from the weekend just gone. I mentioned Sonny there. Dean, what do you reckon? Son playing number 9 and Richarlison in the 11 was nice.
Yeah, it was
going,
interesting.
okay, you are the number 9. And Richarlison looked good out on the left. I thought, like, Son, I know he's not playing 90 and he went off with a knock, but he looks like a good number 9 in this system, doesn't he? He looks like someone that can play as a standalone. We see Sterling and we see Rashford, wide forwards play there and go, there are worse FPL options for it. Well, there's no doubt about it. In this team, Son's a better FPL option for it.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I was speaking to someone the other day, finding out like what Tottenham's plans are in the transfer market for like buying another striker. And they're like, look, they're obviously going to end up signing another striker at some point, but it probably won't be January because unless Richarlison like gets the ump and wants to move and they have to sell him, they'll go with Son as their first choice centre forward. They'll bring in Richarlison into that role when they have to, and they're also starting to bring through Veliz, who they signed, who's had a couple of outings already, very young, very raw, but they're hoping that he can become something. And while the plan with him was to see him right at the back end of the season, he's already starting to make a small impact at the club. So, yeah, Sonny's got that shirt, and he's just so good. I mean, I'm glad I own him already. They've obviously got a nice run of fixtures, Tottenham, coming up. They've got Luton, Fulham, Palace, Chelsea, Wolves. So 5 easy games for them on paper. But seriously, like that, from a Tottenham point of view, at the moment, you're looking at those games. Luton away, yeah, we win that. Fulham home, win that. Palace away, it's actually not easy, but definitely reason to believe you can win. Chelsea at home, there's absolutely no reason for Tottenham to not beat Chelsea at home this season.
That's a good point.
And Wolves away, like, who knows what you get from Wolves away. But that's a fantastic run to be owning Son. Like, there's no way anyone should be ignoring that. And I'm even looking at those games thinking the Maddison-Son combination might be needed, to be honest.
I've got them both, and I don't want to lose them. Don't want to lose either. I think Maddison was so unlucky not to get points against Liverpool. I only watched the highlights this morning, but I was like, okay, Maddison proper engaged.
Yeah, I was like that with Ward-Prowse this week. He didn't get me points, but then I watched back the extended highlights actually, and I was like, he's been so unlucky here. Like, his delivery's so good, and like the keeper's making great saves from the headers, and then he's had a free kick that's heading towards the top corner, which could have gone differently. So you just got to stick these things out.
You have. Ward-Prowse is a great buy. West Ham fixtures are good. And Ward-Prowse ain't the Ward-Prowse we've seen for a lot of his career, where he's sort of playing as one in a midfield 2 and fairly deep. He's the most advanced of the midfield 3. He's pretty attacking. It's a thing where he used to play when he was like, I remember watching Ward-Prowse in the under-21s. It was like number 10. So one to keep an eye on Ward-Prowse in that new position, because it's not just a set piece threat anymore with him. We can't go the weekend just gone without mentioning Pedro Neto. If we're talking eye tests, we're speaking about Ward-Prowse as a good sort of mid-price midfielder or budget midfielder is Neto, and Wolves have some good fixtures coming up. I know they don't score many goals. I know they're not predictable, but they are clearly a team which is centered around one player. And I actually quite like the front three of Mateus Cunha with Neto and alongside Hwang. And when they scored the winning goal against Man City, the three of them did this sort of celebration together. And I thought, we've not really seen a midfield attacking three build a name for themselves at Wolves, because there's so many players there that come in and out every week. And those three, when you compare the skill set of all three of those players, they actually really complement each other quite nicely. And I quite like that attacking three and think that could do things. And that's clearly what Gary O'Neill wants to build. And seeing them celebrate as they did together, it was like, this is training ground done well here. This is working for us. And Neto's the main man.
He is the main man. I can't work out who's going to be the better point scorer, though, out of him and Hwang. Like, Hwang, I trust for goals more than probably anyone, perhaps, in that Wolves team. I remember being asked last week, I was doing a thing for Give Me Sport, and they were like, where are Gary O'Neill's goals going to come from? And I was like, to be honest, if I was to predict, I'd say Hwang, and he's got 2 goals in the space of a week since then. So I just like his instincts around the box. Neto is obviously like absolutely on fire at the moment. Like he's dazzling, but he's also got this calmness about him at the same time. Like even when Wolves went ahead in that game, he was trying not, it was like this, we're a long way from getting the job done here. But the way he's playing, I mean, Wolves will already be thinking, how are we going to hold on to this guy? Because we can't hide the fact that he's probably too good for us.
There's no way he's there next season. Can they keep him in January is the real quiz, I guess. That's
honestly,
they can't lose him in January because they could go down without Neto.
And literally, like you're watching him play like that against Man City, and you're thinking, well, City will just buy him then, won't they?
I was watching that going, City have done well with their business. Like buying Nunes off Wolves was good business. But you look at it and go, if there was one player to buy, then it should have been Neto, especially because they don't really have a right-sided winger after Mahrez.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Let me just run through a couple of questions quickly. There are a couple cropping up. Llewellyn says, hey guys, I don't recognise your name, mate. Hello, welcome. Is it still worthwhile activating my wild card today in spite of already being victim to the price changes?
Don't worry about it. There'll still be other price changes. It's just one day, Llewellyn. Thank you for joining us, Llewellyn. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. There are a lot wildcarding this week. There's a fair few content creators doing it. I still prefer a wildcard next week than this week. I think those that are wildcarding this week are mainly doing it if they don't have Spurs. So they've gone, I don't have Maddison, I don't have Son. I can't get him into, I want both. I can't get him into my team, and they play Luton. So that's a valid enough reason, I'd suggest, because Spurs are needed. And many didn't want Spurs because they played Liverpool and Arsenal, and we saw they still, Son, for example, got big points against both. So yeah, go for it still if you fancy it. Son will be the template captain pick this week in the community. Casual managers will still go Haaland as set and forget option. But I mean, what's your thoughts on captaincy, Dean, this week? Are you going to go? I mean, Rob Songs in the chat has said triple captain Son against Luton. Like, not for me, but definitely. But if you captain Son for me.
Yeah, I mean, captain Son, and if you want to gamble on a triple, then go for it. I mean, they're not a good team. I mean, I know they just got a win against Everton, which I certainly wasn't predicting. I thought Everton had just like turned a corner and they wouldn't allow that to happen, but they're a bit of a mess, so they did. But you've got to back your premium assets against the worst teams in the league. So there's only with that in mind, how many premium assets are there in terms of attackers? Say 5, 6, like that you actually are going to really fancy, probably 5. And then you're putting them up against the 3, maybe 4 teams in this league that are going to be up against it, going to be conceding loads of goals this season. So Son, Luton away, fits. And it is a consideration on a week like this when Haaland's going to Arsenal. Haaland not even in particularly good form. Arsenal pretty decent defensively at the moment. They're not going to be allowing Man City to go there and win 4-0. So what's Haaland's top billing in this game? 2? Amazed if Haaland goes to the Emirates and scores a hat-trick. If he does, fine, but we are not expecting that. So I'll top him out at 2. Haaland against Luton, Son against Luton, what am I topping him out? 4? Possibly. If Spurs were to hit their groove at Luton, they could go there and win 5 or 6. So Son could easily get a hat-trick at least in that game. So you have to consider it. I'm going to go Son for captain this weekend. Like you say, a lot of the people in my mini league are more casual, and so they'll just stick with Haaland. And that is a bit annoying. They don't even put any thought into it because they'll just leave it, and it might well pay off for them. And they'll
it could work, couldn't it?
It could work, especially if Son doesn't score. But this is why we play the game. You've got to try and think. You've got to try and be smart. And it's gambling, isn't it? At the end of the day, if this was money, if you were putting money on someone here, where would you be putting your money this weekend? And I honestly think if I was to say who's going to outscore them here, Son, who's also getting more points because he's a midfielder, or Haaland up against that, and I would be going Son.
I wonder if there's Maddison conversation to be had, knowing Maddison will likely get 90, and Son just isn't getting 90. Yeah. We have got an extra press conference this week and an extra game this week, European football. So again, we'll know more off the back of Spurs Champions League appearance. Wait a sec.
No, Tottenham aren't in it.
Spurs aren't in Europe. What are you talking
No,
about?
but Man City obviously are. So Haaland is playing against RB Leipzig this weekend. So he's going to Germany. They've got a tough game. And then in the meantime, Son's got a week to recover from this.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Saka's always another captain candidate. We'll talk about him later in bonus beats because maybe one of his teammates is going to get mentioned. But Saka plays Man City, so we're ruling that one out. The only other fixture I like is Liverpool-Brighton, but Brighton can be so good on their day. That could be 1-0 Brighton. Like, just because Brighton have conceded 6, please don't see that and go, they're going to concede loads of goals against Liverpool. Then a very different sort of team, Brighton, to a team that will go and concede 6 and look like a bad defence and then continue to be a bad defence. FPL Freddy says, do a poll, Gianni. You're absolutely right, FPL Freddy. Let's do an early captaincy thought poll. We'll drop Haaland in. We'll drop Salah in. And we'll drop Maddison and Son. So we'll do both Spurs lads because Maddison does come with that 90 minutes appeal that perhaps Watkins captain just saying, lads. Aston Villa Bozzy is a man possessed today. We're not going to put Watkins in the poll because there's not enough to own him. And you can only captain Watkins if you own Watkins. And at the moment, that's most of you watching don't have Watkins in your team and won't have Watkins in your team. I might buy it Matty Cash this week, by the way. I'm a big fan and I need a defender. We'll talk about our teams in just a sec, but shall we go and move on now? Thank you guys for all your comments in the chats, by the way. By the way, Llewellyn was a subscriber, so shout out Llewellyn.
Oh, sweet. Nice. It must be a lurker. I don't recognise his name around here.
Yeah, Llewellyn's a lurker. I reckon she is. Yeah, I'm going to go Son as my early thoughts, but I'm not sure if I'll stick with that. Okay, let's have a look at our team, shall we, Dean? So let's see how we've got on in the game week 7 so far.
Not good.
There we go. Oh, my team first. That is a fair. I love this.
I like this too. I'll talk about one.
Keeper hell still. Like Anane was meant to get a clean sheet, didn't. Gvardiol not playing. You'll remember, Dean, Friday. Ian said he thinks Ake will start, and I agreed in the chat and said I do.
He did say Gvardiol will be rotated, didn't he? Yeah, he did.
And it wasn't enough for me to go. I'm going to sell him just in case. But I was quite happy having a Stupinan or Colwell off the bench, and Colwell off the bench. I think gets a clean sheet tonight, so I'm all right there. It's more the Darwin issue. It's the -2 as Stupinan ended up getting. Foden had an effort, cleared off the line and put up higher XGI numbers than Alvarez, but again, it was Alvarez that went home with the points. Could have been Foden, and that is swinging every week. It's Alvarez one week, Foden the next. Very little to separate those two players. And Maddison, same again, like pretty involved. And if Darwin had played, I'd fancy a goal there too, and he didn't. He had a knock. We didn't know about that injury. So a really bad week for me. I think I've gone from around 180k. My live rank's around 500k. Colwell clean sheet tonight will help that out a little bit though. But my early thoughts are, I like my attacking 7 players there on screen for next week. But Gvardiol is a willy won't he every week. And regrettably, because I really want to cover Man City defence, but the only way to do that and get a nailed starter every week is Ederson, Diaz or Walker. And I'm not going to go there because the fixtures are tough. So I'm going to jump on, I think, Matty Cash. I also like West Ham defence and Soufal's an option. And I like Crystal Palace defence. And I also like, before Botman's injury, I thought that might become a Botman spot. But I don't really want to go double Newcastle defence now either. So I've got a transfer waiting to happen there with Gvardiol. And then I'm looking fairly strong, I think, for game week 8. In terms of wildcard, I'm staying flexible for it. I'd planned the international break 8 to 9 loosely. The best thing about a planned wildcard is you can dead end going into it. And I could go, I'm wildcarding next week. Therefore, I'm going to go for a really rogue punt this week. But I don't think I want to necessarily absolutely will want a wildcard next week. So I'm not going to dead end. And that's a little bit why I didn't buy Morris, because I knew by buying Morris, I was dead ending and would force my hand. At the moment, I think I might get away without a wildcard. And I'd just be wildcarding to accommodate Salah. But do I need Salah if Darwin is playing well and playing? I don't know the answer to that yet. But Liverpool have an amazing run of fixtures. So
Ian wasn't big on Salah at all the other day. He's obviously he's been to a few Liverpool games recently, and he said he was just like on an eye test. He was like, he's just not Salah of old. He said, and I know he's returning. And everyone was like, but he returns every single game. He said, I get it, but I'm not seeing it. And then, to be fair, he was right about the last game weekend.
He was unlucky not to get the assist for Luis Diaz, but it is the other sort of points he's getting. He's getting 5.
That's what he said. He's going to get assists. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he's not scored from open play or something, and he's not. He's getting assist points, but he's not getting the sort of points you'd expect for someone who costs this much money in the game. So it was an interesting point. But I said on the flip of that, if it wasn't for Salah, my rank would be a lot lower because I've been consistent with him and picking up points. So I've actually been quite happy to have him. But yeah, your team looks pretty good there, mate. I think it'd be pretty set for a decent one.
You can't get Salah in your wildcard team and have a team that looks like mine either. And I want this team. Like, look at those those 7 attacking spots. Let's say Darwin is Watkins, because that's where you'd go on a wildcard, right? So I've got Watkins in there, that midfield 5. Who are you taking out for Salah? Well, Foden would be the one that has to go. Fine, I accept that. I will probably be selling Foden. But where do I find 5 million from to make that upgrade? Like, it's not finding a million or two, which you always do. Even if you sell Trippier down to a share, that gives you a couple of mil. But I'm like, to wildcard and go Salah and Son and Haaland, you're pretty, and Saka, you cannot have Trippier. Trippier is the best player in the game at the moment. Like, he's just got 38 points in 3 weeks. Trippier is a must-have for me, because there's loads going, I'm going to go without Trippier so I can have Salah and Son and Saka and Haaland, but I'm going to go share and burn. I'm like, they just won't. I'd rather have Trippier than both those guys combined. That's how good he is.
Yeah. Flip to my team, because I actually want to flip that conversation onto mine, actually, in the sense of like what Salah's costing me by having him in the team. Because as you can see, like by having Salah, so I haven't got Trippier because I can't get there at the moment, and I've also got a rubbish fifth midfielder, which I've struggled with all season. Was Declan Rice, went to Enzo, now it's an Andreas, and I don't want any of them. Like, none of these are good assets in the game. But if I didn't have Salah, that could be someone better, and I could also have Kieran Trippier in defence. So that can happen, you know. And I really
could be the Foden price point, not Foden, but the Foden price point, and then you have Trips. You could go Pedro Neto.
Yeah, so you just got someone with some actual goal threat. So like as I say, the players that I'm picking around this point where I'm at with Andreas, they're all this price point for a reason. Like, occasionally they'll get you something, but ultimately a 5.5 million asset isn't going to do you that well as a midfielder across the season. And it's just somebody you want to have as a fullback figure. But I've also then got Archer on the bench as my third attacker. So again, like, not someone I want to be picking that often. Like, occasionally for a home match, like, I'll probably be fine to have Archer. And then I've got these 2 duds on the bench, Gusto and Baldock, who don't who are dead at the moment in FPL. So I'm a bit stuck. I don't want a wild card, and I don't really think I need to at the moment because I can get a decent 11 out. But Salah,
most of wildcarding to get Salah in, and you're thinking, do I need to wildcard Salah out?
Do I need to get him out? Yeah. I don't want a wildcard to get Salah out of my team, because that's madness. But I am thinking Salah is holding me back in what else I could do with this team.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I look at your team, and again, I'm like, oh no, I like it. I like the fact Salah's still a differential.
But there's the Gvardiol thing as well that you've just talked about.
He does need to go, I think, because you don't have a good defensive sub there. So whilst I'm like, oh, I can play Gvardiol because I know Colwill is nailed for 90 and will come in. You've got, oh great, do I have to have Baldock in my 11? No thanks.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
But you have got a great run for Salah. I agree with Ian, though. Like, I think we can all see it, can't we? You even watching games on TV where, like, Salah isn't quite the goal threat he has been in recent years, but he is a good, still creative source, and he ticks on nicely. What he's not is a 12.5 million FPL asset at the moment. He's playing like a 8 to 10 million price point player, which is, so it's hard to justify. It's hard to go. Yeah. I can spend that money, because when you spend that money, you have to sacrifice, and your sacrifice is Andreas is in your 11. And if it's not Andreas, it's an Andreas. It's a 5 million player. And the other sacrifice is no premium defender like a Trippier, who again would be so much fun.
Exactly that. And like, the only thing going against me getting rid of Salah is that Liverpool are great, and Salah's going to be in that team every single week, and I think Liverpool are going to become second in the Premier League. So
do you reckon? Yeah, you're backing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a toss-up. You could argue Arsenal's case too, but like, I just love what I see from Liverpool. Like, even at the weekend with 9 men,
they're fun.
They've got something about them, and
that's
fun.
Why I went Darwin. I was
so many options.
Klopp is back.
He really is, and like they are a great team to be watching at the moment. I saw somebody earlier saying when we were talking about gut feeling, somebody said, my gut is I need to be getting Trent and Robertson in soon. And that's where we're all on my, I mean, I haven't thought about getting those two, but
It's a fair point, though.
it is a fair point.
They
Yeah,
are looking quite, even defensively, I think they're looking way more sound in recent weeks. They've had a clean sheet
exactly.
or two.
And like I've talked about good fixtures. Well, after they play against Brighton away at the weekend, you're looking at Everton at home, Forest at home, Luton away, and Brentford at home. Like 4
Tasty.
brilliant fixtures for Liverpool to then take into a match against Manchester City, which will help define their season. So, I just think that I mean such split mind here over Salah, and it's going to cause me a bit of a problem in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah. Find out on Friday what me and Dean are doing. Cam said Salah down to Diaz. Yes, to keep the Liverpool. I had thought about that for Dean's team. I thought about that for my team as well. I was thinking I could go Darwin and Diaz, and then I'm kind of just covering Salah's points.
That is true. Yeah.
And then Andreas can go up to a Madison style player. It's what Diaz does feel like. I remember at the start of the season saying we've got no idea who's playing central, we've got no idea who's playing left, but Salah will play every minute. It does feel like that left-hand slot is pretty much nailed for Diaz now. Like,
I think so. Shot. Yeah, you don't get many guaranteed other Liverpool starters in the attack apart from Salah, but we are getting that way with Diaz, and he's such a fine player to watch.
He is, and if that goal isn't ruled out, he could be looking on sort of bonus, 10-pointer almost.
Yeah, true.
There we go. Let's have a look at your team, guys. The Chaser team is here. We still
had a good week.
Did we? Thank God. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
We needed
we had to make a transfer in your absence.
We
bought Trippier into the defence.
Good one.
So that was a good one. So that's paid off. Who did we sell? Chilwell.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Chilwell had to go because he wasn't available. Yeah. So we got rid of Chilwell. We bought Trippier in. We decided to give Bayer a start instead of Gvardiol. That paid off. Yes. Well, it hasn't because he's got 0 points. But at least we've got some chance here where Gvardiol would be dead.
I'm just checking Bayer minutes. Did he actually play? Because he could have got a yellow card, conceded 2, and that would be the 0 points. Or he could have just not played.
I assumed he didn't play.
I'll have a look. He could have got a yellow. Let's have a look.
Yeah,
he got 90 minutes. So he must have got a yellow card. Yeah, he got a yellow card. Okay, great.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's good. So
that's good. He's going to start versus Luton.
Yeah, that's really good. I just assumed he hadn't played. Okay, so that leaves us in a better situation there. I mean, people, we're going to have a vote over Rashford soon.
We are going to have to vote.
Like, do you guys really want to persist with this? Like,
no, I'm not sure.
Exactly. It's looking that way. Are you all United fans? Do you all want to keep Rashford? Let us know. Because that obviously opens things up a little bit more, and we don't have a Liverpool attacker in this team either.
Yeah.
So that brings that potential in.
I don't know what money we've got in the bank. I don't know if we can tell you. We might be able to tell you in just a minute, because it might be that we can even go not a straight swap, but Rashford to Salah could be on the cards. Or you go to Son, Rashford to Son. I mean, surely that's that obvious transfer too.
I think Rashford to Son would be great. Yeah, I mean, Resting Pilgrims comes straight in with that one, saying let's see if we can get Rashford to Son. We've got 0.4 in the bank.
Oh, that's going to be tight. That's going to be very tight.
Possible.
I mean, it depends what we're selling Rashford for, because he's had a price drop, hasn't he? And I think we've had him since the start of the season. So Rashford's 8.8 now. And Son's what, 9.2?
Yeah.
So that is 0.4.
9.3 Son is now.
Oh, we're 0.1 short.
People, we've lost it. We've lost that little edge that we had by bringing in Trips.
0.1 though, we can find that. Might have to take a hit, mate, because I think Rashford to Son for a hit is fine this week.
Do you think it's worth it? Yeah. Jamie said Rashford owners need medication. A lot of people are happy for us to try and get to Son. Let us know, people, if you're willing to take a hit on the CH. Not around today. CH wasn't very well on Friday, mate. She was here, but only really in presence. She didn't want to talk. I think she had COVID. So
no,
not great. So I'm guessing that's why we're not getting CH in today, who is usually the decision maker.
Yeah.
So that's tricky.
We can go Gvardiol down to someone to get us 0.1.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll talk on Friday then. What moves we go for? But yeah, I mean, Rob said Anana and Gvardiol out gives you money to upgrade Andreas. Oh, for your team. Yeah.
For my team, yeah. No, I appreciate that, Rob. Thanks, mate.
Watkins is the star, though. Like, fair play chasers. Because of you guys,
Yep.
we kept Watkins. And I think Aston Villa Bozzy in the chat has been a big influence on that. Mark says wildcard. I don't think this team needs a wild. I like the fact that Eze's in as well, by the way, because he's been unlucky this season. Eze owners have been robbed, I think, of so many points. Porro in a lot of saying Porro. We've got Dogie and Mad, so we do have a spare Spurs slot, but surely that has to be Son. By the way, captaincy, 57% of you are thinking Son. Yeah, not surprised by that, to be fair. Madison's still getting a bit of love. Let's do our bonus beast feature. We've only got 10 minutes left, and then we can answer some of your questions. So next up, we've got a bit of tips and chips. Mark says, Eze's unlucky is a mantra we'll hear to the end of time. I have said it every week for the last 2 months.
Yeah. He's got Nottingham Forest at home next. There's some promise.
Here we go. We have to talk about Watkins. I don't remember a time, it's happened a few times, but I don't even know if it absolutely happens every season, where the BPS score, have a look there at the bottom of the screen, bottom right, gets triple figures. You usually see the player that gets the highest bonus points is usually between 25 and 40. Like, sometimes
really?
102 is mental. Because he got one. I think he got 2 FPL assists. Was it 1 or 2? I think he may have got 2 assists as well as a hat trick. Hang on.
Have a look. 2 assists. Yeah, 3 goals, 2 assists. Yeah.
Amazing. The reason this one says 1 assist is I got the data from SofaScore, who didn't put it down as an FPL assist, clearly. So FPL assist is a little bit different, isn't it? It's whoever touched the ball last, pretty much. But the XG was incredible. Only 0.8, and he got 3 goals. So again, massively overperforming. Look at the heat map. Loads of touches in the box. The hottest spot there is in the box. Again, that's what you want to see from a striker. And with Watkins, as we know, it's always to the left. He loves drifting left. He's a dribbler too. BPS loves a dribbler. Successful dribbles. And forwards often don't get that many touches. Haaland, quite often, you might see a game where he gets 15, 20 touches. Still scores a couple of goals, 15, 20 touches. Again, like Watkins here, 41 touches. The more touches, the more passes. The more passes, completion, the better in the BPS. So Watkins, amazing. You can obviously be penalised for things like offside and chances off target as a forward. But everything fell for him against Brighton. And we know he's a player that can go on these streaks. I expect him to be rested in Europe a little bit because Duran's playing well too. And I think he's still going to be relatively fresh. And they've got the Midlands derby against Wolves. So I see Watkins scoring again, and he's a fine own.
I'm so kicking myself. Yeah, Bozzy said earlier, like, Watkins is a streaky player, and it's true. So fully anticipate that he will continue to score goals when he plays against Wolves at the weekend.
Yeah. Llewellyn says Watkins could have scored 4. That's the assist he didn't get. He got an assist at the end of the game. FPL gave it to him. He was through on goal, forced a good save from the steal in goal, and it parried out for a tap-in for Douglas Luiz. So that's an FPL assst. Watkins shoots, keeper saves it. Yeah. Definitely not a real assist, is it?
No.
So yeah, could have had 4. Could have had 4. Let's move on.
Kill myself if he'd have got a 4th. I was that down about the decision.
Odegaard is a player I love. In a minute, we're going to see the heat map. It's going to flash up on screen in a sec. Before we see the heat map, we can see 56 in the BPS for Odegaard. 56 is awesome. And
half an Ollie Watkins.
Half an Ollie Watkins, though. What's nice about this performance was, for non-Saka owners, is Arsenal get 2 pens. Havertz takes 1, Odegaard the other. But the average position map there, see number 8? He's more advanced than Saka, number 7. Direction of play is going up. It's rare you see Odegaard more advanced than Saka. It's rare you see Odegaard more advanced than Jesus, who played on the left. You can see number 9 there. And it's rare you see Odegaard level as Arsenal's most advanced player, level there with Nketiah, number 14. Considerably higher than Havertz, number 29. Odegaard was super advanced. Is this just because it was a freak game, because it was Bournemouth and they won the midfield battle and he could go and express himself higher up the pitch? Or was it a conscious decision from Arteta to get his best ball player, creative source, number 10, higher up the pitch. And if it was, that's one to monitor.
Yeah, it's a good point that Mark makes. He's more advanced because he's the highest presser with Jesus. And sometimes with heat maps, like this can be deceiving. Like the areas that they're in is because they're trying to win possession back, and they're just told to run into certain areas more often. And I do think that is quite the case with Odegaard, to be fair, in terms of how advanced he looks on a heat map. I have to say, like the fact that Arsenal got 2 penalties and Saka didn't take either of them is not amusing.
I know.
Like,
it's because Saka scored early. I think it was because he had his goal, and it's like, I don't care. Get your numbers up, mate.
You don't give away both the pens, especially like feeling for Havertz. You haven't scored this season, and you have a go, mate. It's like, no, be selfish. You're Saka. You're the star of this team. Get your numbers up.
Yeah. The Havertz one was a nice gesture, because it's kind of, we won the game, we're 3-0 up, and you need a goal. But I don't want to see more of that. I don't want to see more of that at all. And
I like what Pete just said. Does Saka handing the ball over get him an assist? Yeah, it should do. I totally agree.
Robbed. So the pressing is a good point. And these are average position heat maps and average position maps when you're not looking at the heat. So it's on and off the ball. It's not just on the ball, which is why if it was on the ball, you would see Odegaard a tad deeper. But he's in the right positions, which we love. 2 big chances created, as well as the goal, by the way. And he got an assist. The passes were high. 17 points. Odegaard is a good own. I still think I prefer Saka but there's not much between them. There really isn't. Let's move on, because I want to make sure we've got at least 5 minutes to answer your questions, guys. So thank you all in the chat for being so engaged this afternoon. You haven't been hitting the subscribe button, though. Every time you subscribe, someone makes a little noise in my ear, and I've not heard that noise today. So please do hit the subscribe button if you're new around here, and hit that like button. So question time. Let's see who wants to ask questions, and we'll alternate between the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what comes along next. I mean, there is one right there. Oh, Saka to Diaz, Rashford up to Son. Saka to Diaz, Rashford. I'm gonna say
this might have been the community team.
Oh, is it? Oh, is that what he's talking about? Yeah,
maybe. I don't think this is Cam's team. Have we got Saka in the community team? We do, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. You might have a good point there. I think he's talking about the community team. Sorry, with everyone, that sounds.
Because I said we need to go Rashford to Son. So Cam, I think I'm with you there, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, Botman and Bruno to Trippier and Son, or Botman and Bomo to Burn and Son. Right, let me just process this. Botman and Bruno to Trippier and Son. Yes, love that. Or Botman and
I'd go first one.
I go first one, 100%, because it's Trippier and Son you're getting in. Like, do that. Do the first one. 100. G, do you have a rule of thumb? If you have a player that blanks week after week, how many weeks do you hold him? Well, Kai Havertz, he kept him for about 17.
Yeah, if he's a Chelsea player, he stays in for as long as he likes. Ask Jackson and Havertz. He needs to get suspended for me to sell them. I am at times more patient than I should be. But again, I'm probably more knee-jerk than I should be at times as well. I don't have a rule, and I play every player in their own right and kind of think of it individually. What I would say is I look big at underlying numbers, so I don't care if my player's blanking, if he's putting up good underlyings. And the reason I held Jackson, for example, so long was I was going, he's due, he's putting the underlyings up. So look at the expected data as well as the actual data. Some like to do that, some go, it's a load of rubbish, but I'm big on it.
I like it. Right, Mike, move early on the Botman to cash, or just hold and wait for fitness rather than price changes, or just ignore all this and play Estupinan. Move early on Botman to cash, or wait, or just play Estupinan.
Make a decision later in the week, mate. No,
I don't think you need to make that decision right now. Hold on it for now, Mike, and you can address that issue on Friday.
Yeah, Cash could play on Thursday. Botman, we could be seeing he's back training fine. Like, so much information. 0.1 million is not worth it.
Definitely.
Still in favour of 3-5-2, or would you move towards 3-4-3? I do think some will go to 3 attackers now, because I think Darwin, despite not playing at the weekend, knowing Jota's suspended and knowing Hakpo's injured, Darwin's going to start against Brighton. And also knowing loads can't reach Salah for that good run of fixtures, there'll be managers out there that want Darwin and Alvarez and Watkins, and they can only have 2 of those 3. And to do that, they need to go 3-4-3.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that now you've got like some actual options up there, and like the fact that Watkins is scoring, Alvarez is going to be in there all season with Haaland, and you've got someone like Darwin, like definitely going to be seeing more 3-4-3. I would do it, to be honest, right now. If I had a decent attacker beyond Archer, I'd probably be doing that right now. Aston Villa Bosley, sorry about this one, lads. Thoughts on Monday Night Football later? We did address it a little bit at the start. G thinks Chelsea 2-0. I fear a Chelsea 2-0. I think that's the most we'll get beaten by if we lose, but I think we'll win 1-0. I think we'll win 1-0. Worst
Tiffany's
Chelsea
just
I've seen
joined
in years.
us. Tiffany's looking at
Oh,
going Alvarez to Watkins. I don't mind that move. I don't mind that move at all. I think I'd be keeping Alvarez another couple of weeks, though, and sell him off the back of the international break.
I just don't know that switching those. I mean, obviously, that's literally what I've done is gone Watkins to Alvarez, and it's hurt me. And I feel it could literally happen the other way around too. Like, that's why there's going to be this temptation and wildcarding to get both of those to either side of Haaland. I think that'll be a good combination.
Yeah, and with players like Mbomo not playing well, you can maybe go to a midfield 4. No Man United nor Liverpool players. Is that okay? Ziyed, it's all right, but you do need a Liverpool player for the run they're about to go on. They haven't. The good news is they haven't gone on it yet. So you do need to buy. You don't need to buy a United player, but you probably do need a Liverpool player in the next couple of weeks.
Yep, ignore United for now. That's fine. Idoji versus
Good
Porro.
question. I don't know the answer to this.
I don't think anyone does. That's the problem. Look, if both these players were in the team every single week, I'd go Porro.
Yeah, but Emerson could come in every now and then.
Emerson could come in, and I don't feel like Idoji has as much threat to his shirt.
Agreed.
That's why I've got Idoji in my team.
And Porro might be a tad more expensive, like 0.1, 0.2. So yeah.
True.
Who should I pick between Mbomo and Foden? Forgetting obviously Foden, like my boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I actually don't mind. No, I think Man's a bit. Loads didn't buy Son because it was like, oh, he's got Arsenal and Liverpool up next. I was like, yeah, but that's still going to be high-scoring games. Son will still get goals, and that's why I bought Son. I don't mind about the fixtures when two big teams go against each other if they're fixtures where you see goals. And when Spurs are against those teams, you see goals. I think Man City, Arsenal could have goals too without Rodri.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to ignore what's on screen right now because Aston Villa Bozzy just said, I have Fulham in my prediction, Dean. I'm sorry, Gianni. I just don't know where your goals are coming from. Oh, I love it. A Fulham team that are basic. Fulham are basically toothless. We've got Carlos Vinicius, Raul Jimenez, who hasn't scored a goal yet, and we're all worrying about Chelsea's lack of goal threat. Like, trust me, Fulham's is almost as bad as Chelsea's, unfortunately.
It's going to be
right.
nil.
Honestly, I'm thinking of putting a bet on 0-0 just so it's worth me going tonight. Pete says, I need more than Salah with Liverpool fixtures coming up. Is Szoboszlai an option? Szoboszlai, I tell you what, mate.
He's good.
It might be the best player in this division. Like, he is outrageous what he can do. And he is starting to... His radar's so hot, obviously, for the long ranges, but also his assists are starting to come. And
why is he not an FPL pick yet, though? Is he going to be an FPL pick, Dean? Because when you looked at his numbers before, when he arrived at Liverpool, it was like, 7 million for the numbers he puts up in terms of goal contributions, goals and assists. That's all we care about with FPL. You're like, that's good value. But so far at Liverpool, he's got a couple of assists, I think, and maybe a goal, but he hasn't looked like he's putting up high enough numbers to invest.
Yeah, well, he plays various roles, doesn't he, as well? That's the problem.
It's
been a bit deeper sometimes, yeah. Like, if you think, say Salah got an injury and suddenly Szoboszlai was playing up top on the right, I think Szoboszlai is like a go-to option. Like, I'd love to see it. I think people keep saying, who's going to replace Salah when he leaves? I think they've already got him, to be honest.
Yeah, and he's even robbed some of the set pieces off Trent and Robbo. Like, straight away, comes in, he's on some corners. His delivery's that good. When you talk about Trent, like, he's the best set piece taker in the world or the best deliverer in the world. And look, Trent is obviously up there, but it just the blind faith we put in the Premier League. It's like, go watch some other leagues too, because there's a guy called Szoboszlai that could come straight into Liverpool and take corners straight away off Trent. And that's how good he is. But we've been told to death that no one's better at corners than Trent. It's like, there's loads of other good leagues, guys.
Yeah, that's so true.
Honestly.
So true.
There we go. Sterling Brace, good joke that. Pete says his XG is on the rise, by the way, Szoboszlai. So I will check those numbers out.
Yeah.
Because I do wonder, he's like Gravenberch coming in and a few other reinforcements in that midfield. If we see him the most attacking,
he gets let off the leash a bit, for sure.
Guys, thank
Nice.
you so much for watching. We will be back. I'll be back later in the week with Big Man, but me and Dean are back on Friday. That we can commit to. And I can't wait to chat and do that Chaser team because it's on a good week with Ollie Watkins.
It's on a bit of trajectory now. Yeah, they got to lift off, I think.
Yeah, Chasers needed that. Guys, but for now, it's been lovely to be back. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, mate. Hit the like button on your way out. It'd be awesome to look back at this stream with 100 likes. We've got 57. Likes and subscribes are very, very welcome. Dean and I will see you on Friday. Hopefully there'll be a show between now and then. For now, he's been Dean, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows.